How does a list of 42 answers on a random internet Q&A board turn into this massive global phenomenon? I mean, we're talking over 10 million copies sold.
Right. It's honestly kind of mind-blowing.
It really is. It packs arenas worldwide. It sparks literal political protests. You just don't usually associate a dense academic psychology text with that kind of explosive cultural footprint.
No, definitely not. Usually the expectation for that kind of text is just, well, dust.
Yeah, like a heavy, dry book sitting quietly on some university library shelf.
Exactly. Academic texts are typically so specialized and, buried in clinical jargon, they rarely make it out of the ivory tower.
But today's deep dive is an exploration of a book that completely broke the mold. We are looking at Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life, an antidote to chaos.
And if you look at the backdrop shifting behind us right now, going from this ancient mythological map into a sleek modern cityscape, that really represents why this specific text took off.
It's a huge blend of concepts, right?
Yeah, it takes ancient mythology, evolutionary biology, and modern clinical psychology, and weaves them into this single, intensely practical framework.
And a really surprising fact from the sources is that the book actually originated from a personal hobby of Peterson's. He was just answering questions on Quora.
Right, his answer to what are the most valuable things everyone should know?
Exactly. And that post originally contained 42 rules before being distilled down to the 12 we're looking at today.
And our mission for this deep dive is to objectively unpack those rules. We want to understand the psychological framework behind them and explore both the profound praise and the really fierce criticism the book has generated.
And on that note, I do need to explicitly remind you listening that this deep dive contains politically charged content and some very polarizing cultural viewpoints.
Oh, absolutely.
We want to make it super clear that we are not taking sides, endorsing, or condemning the viewpoints. We are just impartially unpacking the ideas as they exist in the source material so you can draw your own conclusions.
Perfectly said. So, to really understand this architecture, we have to start with the foundational worldview.
Right.
Peterson views life as this constant balancing act between order and chaos. Order is the explored territory. It's stability, security.
The known stuff.
Yeah, the known stuff. And chaos is the unexplored territory. It holds infinite potential, but it is also the realm of danger and absolute despair.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with Rule 1, stand up straight with your shoulders back. On the surface, this sounds like something your grandmother barks at you over Sunday dinner.
It really does. But Peterson uses this to symbolize a biological readiness to face life's challenges and take responsibility.
Right, and he brings up this fascinating parallel with lobsters, which, I mean, lobsters and humans sharing a 350 million year evolutionary history is wild.
It's wild, but it's a core argument. They share this dominance detector driven by serotonin. It's the biological reality of dominance hierarchies.
So when a lobster wins a fight, its serotonin spikes, right?
It's exactly. Winners gain confidence and serotonin, while losers physically shrink. Peterson links this to the Matthew effect, or Price's law, mentioned in the sources.
So posture isn't just physical, it's metaphysical. It's like, well, so posture is less like a mirror reflecting how you feel and more like a thermostat that actually changes your brain's chemistry.
That is an excellent analogy. Yes, you can physically adjust the thermostat to hack your brain chemistry. It's a biological mechanism for facing danger.
Which connects perfectly to Rule 11. Do not bother children when they are skateboarding.
Right, because kids throwing themselves downstairs on a piece of wood are voluntarily engaging with chaos.
They're risking injury. But this rule highlights the importance of allowing that risk-taking, right, for independence and growth.
Precisely. We absolutely must face a certain amount of chaos to grow competent. If you bubble wrap kids, they never develop resilience.
But facing the external world is almost easier than facing ourselves. Which brings us to Rule 2. Treat yourself like someone you are responsible for helping.
This one addresses a really bizarre paradox from the sources.
Yeah, people will dutifully give medicine to a sick pet, but then totally neglect to take their own prescriptions. It's crazy.
It is. And Peterson uses his analysis of the Adam and Eve story from Genesis to explain this.
How so?
Well, humans have this unique capacity for self-consciousness, which brings self-loathing. We view ourselves as fundamentally flawed, whereas we look at animals as completely innocent.
So we think the dog deserves the medicine, but we subconsciously think we don't.
Exactly. So Rule 2 encourages radical self-care to fight that.
And speaking of self-evaluation, Rule 4 is compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today.
Because in a highly connected world, there will always be someone better than you.
Right, if you scroll social media, you're going to feel inferior. This rule just completely shifts the focus to personal progress rather than external comparisons.
It narrows your focus to what you can control. And that leads right into Rule 6. Set your house in perfect order before you criticize the world.
Which emphasizes personal responsibility and, self-improvement before you start trying to dismantle societal structures.
Right. You have to fix your own life before judging others.
This raises an important question, though. Is it a trap to demand a quote-unquote perfect house?
What do you mean?
Well, if we wait until we are entirely flawless to criticize the world, does that just lead to political apathy? Like, it allows massive systemic issues to go unchecked because we're too busy cleaning our rooms.
That's a totally valid question and actually a major point of debate among Peterson's critics.
Yeah.
They argue he heavily neglects the systemic aspects of societal issues.
Right, because personal habits don't fix institutional problems. But let's pivot to navigating relationships. Rule 3, make friends with people who want the best for you.
The anecdote and the sources for this one is really poignant. It's about Peterson's childhood in freezing rural Alberta.
Yeah, his friend Chris, who tragically committed suicide, he uses that to talk about why we hold on to toxic people.
Exactly. He warns against the vanity and narcissism that's often disguised as a desire to, rescue people who completely refuse responsibility.
You have to surround yourself with supportive, positive influences instead to foster resilience. And that extends to kids, too. Rule 5, do not let your children do anything that makes you dislike them.
Which sounds harsh, but it advocates for disciplined parenting.
Right. To cultivate respect and social competence, since children aren't just born with those skills, you have to civilize them.
You do. And a big part of being civilized is how we communicate. That's rules 8, 9, and 10.
The communication rules. Rule 8, tell the truth, or at least don't lie. It's basically the foundation for integrity.
And rule 9, assume that the person you are listening to might know something you don't, which promotes humility and really active listening.
Yeah, and then Rule 10, be precise in your speech. Advocating for clarity to reduce misunderstandings, I kind of compare Rule 10 to using a surgeon's scalpel.
Oh, I like that. How so?
Well, when you precisely define a problem, you cut it down to a manageable size. You stop letting it remain this chaotic, terrifying monster under the bed.
Yes, articulation cuts right through the chaos. But what is the ultimate goal of all this order? That brings us to Rule 7.
Pursue what is meaningful, not what is expedient.
Right. The psychological journal sources identify this as the philosophical climax of the book. Meaning is found through self-sacrifice and pursuing a higher good.
Rather than just chasing fleeting happiness, it prioritizes long-term purpose over short-term gain.
Exactly. Because life involves suffering, and meaning is the anchor that gets you through it.
And here's where it gets really interesting, because Rule 12 is, pet a cat when you encounter one on the street.
The context behind this rule is it's heartbreaking.
It really is. Peterson wrote this while dealing with his daughter Michaela's rare bone disease. She was in chronic, just agonizing pain.
And as a parent, feeling totally powerless to fix it. It forces a massive shift in how you experience time.
Right. This rule is a metaphor for appreciating tiny moments of peace amidst life's inevitable suffering.
It's a practical tactic for hardship. You shorten your temporal scope to just surviving the next minute, and in that minute, you look for a tiny piece of joy.
Like petting a cat. It's incredibly moving. But we really have to pivot to the pushback and controversies because the cultural footprint here is massive.
Unavoidable, really.
Yeah. As reported impartially, the book is praised by Catholic bishops and right-wing commentators as a defense of traditional Western values and personal responsibility.
But conversely, left-wing critics and feminists view his ideas on gender and social hierarchies as reactionary.
Or even dangerous. Some call his views on white privilege a Marxist lie. It's incredibly polarized.
And the academic critiques are just as fierce. Take the anthropological critique from Gary Clark.
Oh, regarding the lobsters and the ancient hierarchies.
Exactly. Peterson claims these strict hierarchies are rooted in ancient mammalian biology. But anthropologists point out that early human hunter-gatherer societies were actually egalitarian and matrilineal.
Suggesting that Peterson projected modern cultural biases into the deep past.
Yes, and there's also a major psychological critique from a modern behavioral therapist mentioned in the sources.
Right, the danger of quote-unquote rule-governed behavior. Peterson compares his rules to the Ten Commandments, but strict rule-following can lead to psychological rigidity.
Right. In therapy, rigid rule-governed behavior often backfires. For example, someone with Severe social anxiety rigidly follows Rule 1.
Standing up straight to fake confidence.
Yeah. It can cause hyper-self-focused attention and actually worsen their anxiety. True resilience requires coping flexibility, not just blindly following a list.
That context is so crucial. So, to summarize our deep dive, whether you view Peterson as a secular prophet offering a lifeline to alienated young men,
Or a stupid man, smart person peddling pseudofacts.
exactly. 12 Rules for Life has undeniably tapped into a deep cultural yearning for meaning, structure, and responsibility.
It really has. And I want to leave you listening with a final thought to ponder today. Peterson wrote these rules as an antidote to chaos. But in a rapidly changing world, is it possible that our biggest threat isn't too much chaos, but rather too much rigid order?
Oh, wow.
If we blindly adhere to hierarchies and rules, do we risk crushing the very chaos out of which creativity and necessary societal evolution are born?
That is a brilliant question to end on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.